didn't happen on a stage. There was no keynote, no apology tour, no carefully edited blog post framed as transparency. But inside Microsoft, something rare finally occurred. The company admitted, quietly, internally, and without fanfare, that Windows updates are getting worse. Not just more annoying, not just more frequent, worse in ways that matter. Reliability metrics showed it. Rollback rates confirmed it. Support escalations proved it. Windows updates were no longer behaving like maintenance. They were behaving like liabilities. For decades, Microsoft treated Windows Update as sacred infrastructure. Updates existed to protect users, stabilize systems, and fix what was broken. They were meant to fade into the background of daily life. You installed them, restarted once, and forgot about them. That contract is gone. In the Windows 11 era, updates don't quietly maintain the system. They change it. They introduce new behavior. They move settings. They reset preferences. They re-enable features users explicitly turned off. They interrupt work, break workflows, and sometimes leave machines unusable. And Microsoft knows this now. According to people familiar with internal discussions, Bill Gates saw the data. He saw the rising number of failed installs. He saw the increase in emergency patches issued after routine updates. He saw how often updates now require rollbacks to restore basic functionality. What shocked him wasn't that bugs existed. Bugs always existed. What shocked him was that Microsoft now accepts this as normal. Windows updates used to be boring by design. Now they are unpredictable by strategy. And once updates become unpredictable, trust collapses. Because an operating system doesn't fail when it crashes. It fails when users stop believing it's on their side. That realization is what landed hardest. Windows updates are no longer about keeping systems running. They're about pushing change, whether users want it or not. That is not a technical failure. That is a philosophical one. There was a time when nobody talked about Windows updates. That was the entire point. Patch Tuesday came and went. Machines restarted overnight. Offices opened the next morning, and everything worked exactly the same as it did the day before. No drama, no fear, no hesitation. Boredom was success. Windows 11 changed that relationship completely. Updates stopped being invisible and started becoming disruptive. They introduced new interfaces, new background services, new integrations, and new defaults. Instead of fixing problems users complained about, they often created new ones users didn't ask for. Updates became moments users braced for. People stopped clicking restart casually. They saved work compulsively. They searched forums before installing patches. They waited to see if others were reporting issues first. That behavior shift matters. When users fear updates, the platform is already unstable. Not technically, but emotionally. Trust is no longer assumed. It has to be negotiated every month. And Microsoft leaned into this instability. Updates now arrive faster, larger, and more frequently. They don't just patch security holes. They advance corporate strategy. They promote AI features. They expand cloud hooks. They deepen telemetry. They reshape the system in ways that benefit Microsoft first and users second. That's why updates feel heavier now. They're carrying more than fixes. They're carrying intent. Bill Gates built Windows during an era when backward compatibility was a core value. Breaking workflows was treated as failure. Today, breaking workflows is treated as acceptable friction in service of progress. But users don't experience it as progress. They experience it as loss. Loss of control, loss of predictability, loss of confidence that tomorrow's update won't make today's work harder. Windows Update didn't just stop being boring. It stopped being trustworthy. And once trust is gone, every update becomes a gamble instead of a guarantee. That's when the relationship starts to fracture. What finally forced Microsoft to confront reality wasn't Reddit outrage or tech journalists complaining on social media. It was their own numbers. Internally, reliability dashboards started telling a story executives couldn't spin away. Update-related failures were climbing, not falling. Rollbacks were becoming routine. Emergency patches were being issued to fix problems caused by patches that were supposed to fix other problems. Windows updates were breaking Windows. Machines stuck in reboot loops after routine security updates, drivers failing silently, VPNs disconnecting after cumulative patches, File Explorer slowing down or crashing entirely after feature updates. Systems technically up to date, but practically unusable. This wasn't happening on fringe hardware. It was happening on certified devices, on supported configurations, on machines doing exactly what Microsoft told users to do. And the most alarming trend wasn't the failures themselves. It was how expected they'd become. Inside Microsoft, update failure rates were no longer treated as anomalies. They were forecasted. Engineers planned around them. Support teams were staffed with the assumption that a certain percentage of updates would go wrong. That mindset shift is everything, because once failure is expected, urgency disappears. Quality becomes negotiable. The question stops being, how do we prevent this? And becomes, how fast can we recover when it happens? Bill Gates reportedly reacted strongly to that framing. Not because recovery isn't important, but because Windows was never supposed to need recovery as a default state. Stability was the baseline, not the exception. In earlier eras, a Windows update that caused widespread issues would have triggered emergency reviews, halted rollouts, and internal reckoning. Today, the response is quieter. Acknowledgement without accountability. Fixes layered on top of fixes. Users feel this erosion even if they never see the dashboards. They feel it when an update finishes and something small but critical no longer works, when settings reset without explanation, when performance drops and nobody can explain why. Microsoft's data confirms what users already know instinctively. Updates aren't making Windows feel safer anymore. They're making it feel fragile. And once fragility becomes the defining experience, confidence collapses. Nowhere is that collapse more visible than in enterprise environments. Patch Tuesday used to be sacred, a predictable cadence that IT departments built their workflows around. Updates were evaluated, tested briefly, then rolled out with confidence. That confidence is gone. Today, many organizations treat Windows updates like unexploded ordnance. They don't deploy immediately. They wait. They watch. They scan forums and internal channels for reports of breakage before touching anything. Some delay updates for weeks, others for months. Not because they're lazy, because they're scared. IT administrators now talk openly about Windows updates being the #1 cause of Windows incidents. That sentence alone represents a complete reversal of trust. The mechanism designed to protect systems has become the primary threat to stability, and the cost is real. Every delayed update increases security risk. Every broken update increases support load. Every rollback erodes confidence in the platform. Admins are forced into impossible trade-offs between safety and stability. Bill Gates built Microsoft's dominance on the trust of these professionals. The people who recommended Windows, deployed it at scale, and defended it in boardrooms. When they stop trusting updates, the entire ecosystem trembles. What's worse is that Microsoft knows this hesitation exists and pushes forward anyway. Forced deadlines remain. Mandatory restarts still loom. Feature updates still arrive bundled with security fixes, making avoidance harder and riskier. Patch Tuesday is no longer a maintenance window. It's a gamble. Admins spin the wheel and hope this month's update doesn't break printers, networking, authentication, or productivity tools. When it does, they absorb the blame, even though the failure originated upstream. That quiet humiliation matters, because professionals don't abandon platforms out of anger. They abandon them out of exhaustion. And exhaustion is exactly what Windows updates now produce. When the people responsible for keeping systems running no longer believe updates help them do that, the damage isn't theoretical. It's already happening. For individual users, the damage feels even more personal. Windows 11 doesn't ask whether now is a good time. It informs you that the update is coming. Restart now or restart later. Those are the choices. The outcome is already decided. People leave their desks and come back to change machines. Settings moved. Defaults reset. Features they disabled are active again. new background processes running without explanation, software behaving differently than it did the day before. Nothing feels stable because nothing is permanent. Users don't feel like owners of their systems anymore. They feel like tenants, allowed to customize only until the next update overrides their decisions. That loss of consent is what turns frustration into anger. A broken update can be forgiven. A forced one cannot. Professionals feel it when deadlines are missed because a restart couldn't be postponed. Creators feel it when performance drops after an update and nobody can explain why. Power users feel it when workflows they spent years refining are altered overnight. The operating system isn't just failing them, it's acting against them. Bill Gates built Windows on the idea that software should adapt to how people work. Windows 11 updates invert that relationship. Users are expected to adapt to the system's priorities, even when those priorities disrupt their lives. That inversion is subtle, but it's devastating. Because once users feel they're fighting their own tools, loyalty evaporates. They stop defending the platform. They stop recommending it. They start looking for exits. And every forced update pushes more people toward that decision. The hardest truth is that this isn't happening by accident. Windows updates are no longer just about security or stability. They are a delivery pipeline, a way to push strategic priorities directly onto hundreds of millions of machines. AI integration, cloud dependency, telemetry expansion, engagement tracking. These goals don't wait for major releases anymore. They arrive through updates, whether users want them or not. That makes updates heavier, more complex, and more fragile. Complex systems fail more often. Microsoft knows this, and they accept it, because the metrics that matter internally reward shipping, not restraint. Did usage go up? Did adoption increase? Did engagement spike? Those are the questions leadership asks. Stability becomes secondary. Consent becomes optional. Predictability becomes negotiable. Bill Gates reportedly pushed back on this mindset, not because innovation is bad, but because forcing unfinished or unwanted changes through mandatory updates breaks the social contract Windows was built on. You can't rebuild trust with faster patches. You can't fix resentment with better messaging. To make Windows updates better, Microsoft would have to change what updates are for. They would have to prioritize user control over corporate goals. And that is the one change they are least willing to make. So updates keep getting worse. Not because Microsoft doesn't see the problem, but because fixing it would require admitting something deeper is broken. Not the code, the strategy. The consequences aren't theoretical anymore. They're already visible in how people behave. Users don't trust Windows updates, so they try to avoid them. They delay them. They disable them. They search for ways around them. Some freeze their systems on older builds. Others accept security risks just to preserve stability. That behavior alone would have been unthinkable in earlier eras of Windows. An operating system whose users fear its updates is not a healthy platform. It's a platform living on borrowed trust. Developers notice it. IT departments notice it. Power users notice it first. Then everyone else follows. The quiet shift happens before the public narrative catches up. Recommendations change. Defenses stop. Silence replaces loyalty. And that silence is deadly. Bill Gates understands this better than anyone. Microsoft didn't win because Windows was perfect. It won because people trusted it. They believed updates would make things better, not different. Safer, not riskier. Invisible, not intrusive. Windows updates used to reinforce that trust every month. Now they erode it. Once users associate updates with disruption, the relationship is already broken. Once professionals treat updates as threats instead of safeguards, the platform's credibility is already damaged. Once people feel they must fight their operating system to keep it usable, they start imagining life without it. That's the point of no return. Microsoft can fix bugs. Microsoft can improve reliability metrics. Microsoft can rewrite patch notes and adjust messaging. What it can't easily fix is the emotional damage caused by years of forced change, broken promises, and ignored feedback. Windows updates didn't just fail technically, they failed socially. They stopped serving users and started serving strategy. And users noticed. Windows was never just an operating system. It was a relationship built on trust, predictability, and respect for how people work. That relationship is now fractured, and no amount of patching can undo that. Because when trust is gone, updates don't feel like improvements anymore. They feel like warnings. And that's why Microsoft admitting that Windows updates are getting worse isn't a turning point. It's an acknowledgement of a loss that already happened.